Registering a Business 101. This is a basic guide to registering a business in South Africa. Before we start, just a small disclaimer. This guide is meant to provide a basic guide for businesses in the ideation and early startup phases. The objective is to help these businesses think about the type of business appropriate for them and how to go about registering it. It's not a comprehensive analysis of all aspects of business registration and should not be used in isolation. Other sources of information should be consulted if and when necessary to supplement the information presented in this guide. So when should you register your business? In South Africa, businesses are registered at the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, otherwise known as the CIPC. It's very important to note that not all businesses need to register with CIPC. But here are 5 reasons why you should. Firstly, in order to transact with the formal sector or government, they tend to require that a business be registered. Secondly, if you require some sort of government support, like for instance funding or any other business support, then they will also require for your business to be registered. The other reason is to protect your assets when registering as a type of business with limited liability. We'll come back to this term limited liability in the next slide. But essentially, if you are in a type of business where your personal assets are not separated from the business assets, then you might want to register your business in a type of registration format that separates your personal liability from your business risk. But we'll come back to this concept in the next slide. The other reason is for credibility with customers. People like to know that the company they're transacting with is registered, has a registration number, and that they can report that company to the CIPC or an ombudsman should there be a need to in future. The last thing is continuity. People die, and just because we die does not mean that the businesses we start have to die with us. So there's certain types of business registrations that allow for the business to continue even after the founders have passed on. We'll again come back to this point in the next slide. There are different types of businesses, and this slide's objective is to basically outline the 4 main types of businesses. But before we get there, let me try and explain this concept of liability. The question here is, will the owner be personally liable for any business risk? So for example, if the business that I start gets into some financial trouble and then has to get liquidated, I might still owe some people money from some debts that I might have borrowed, in which case those people still have first preference when it comes to who gets a share of what's left of the business. So there's certain types of businesses where this business risk is separate from the owner's personal liability, and there's certain types of businesses where this business risk is not separate from the owner's personal liability. So let's get into it. Limited liability is when the business is a separate person from the owner, and therefore the owner is not personally liable for business risk. Unlimited liability is when the business is not a separate person from the owner, and therefore the owner can be held personally liable for business risk. So what this means is, for example, if I'm a sole proprietor, as described on this side, it means that I'd probably be the only owner and the only person operating the business. This type of business structure has unlimited liability, meaning that any debts incurred by the business are also incurred by the owner in their personal capacity. If the business defaults on some sort of debt, the lenders of the debt can come directly to the owner of the business and take the owner's personal assets to service the debt liability. Then the other type of business is a partnership. This is usually a business that's owned by 2 or more people, and this business also has unlimited liability. Again, meaning that if either one of the partners default on some sort of debt in their personal capacity, the creditors can come directly to any one of the business partners and claim for that debt in any one of the business partners' personal liability. So it's very important when you go into a partnership that you trust the people you're with, because anything that they do in their personal capacities could directly impact you in your personal capacity and not necessarily just the business. Then you get a private company. This is the most popular type of company that's registered. It describes a company that's owned by anything from 1 person to 50 people. This type of company has limited liability, meaning that this company is a separate person from its owners. So any business risk that the company incurs stays with the company and does not infringe on the owner's personal liability to pay any business risks. Similarly, with a public company, which is actually the most expensive type of company to register, where it's publicly owned and typically owned by more than 50 people and can trade shares on a stock exchange. This company also has limited liability, meaning that it's a separate entity from its owners, and if anything happens with the business, the owners are not personally liable to pay for any outstanding debts, for example. The reason why most people would list a public company is when they've grown enough and are actually looking for substantial amounts of funding. So what they then do is they would list on a stock exchange to solicit these funds from as many people as possible. These people then become shareholders of the company and share in the profits and the losses of that company. So now that we understand the different types of businesses, how does one go about registering a business? So I'm going to keep this simple. The CIPC already has a list of step-by-step guides to help you register your business with them. This screen that you're looking at the moment is a summary of, or it's a screenshot of the CIPC's website, and it shows a number of step-by-step guides that they provide. The one that I've highlighted is the step-by-step guide to registering a new private company with a standard memorandum of incorporation, meaning that you want to register a private company owned by anyone from 1 to 50 people, and it is registered with a standard memorandum of incorporation, meaning that whatever is available on the CIPC website in terms of how the business is meant to function is what the business owners will adopt, and that they don't need any sort of customized clauses as part of the business registration. So at the bottom of the slide, you'll see in the source, I've listed the exact URL address to get to this page. You can use that, and then feel free to click on any one of these guides that's relevant to your business and then follow the step-by-step instructions listed there. Another way of registering your business is through FNB. FNB offers business registration services at no additional cost, provided you open an FNB business account. So you'd basically go onto their website, www.fnb.co.za, and then you'd follow these 5 easy steps. First, you click on For My Business as illustrated on this slide. Then you click on CIPC plus BBBE as illustrated on the slide. Step 3 would be to click on the CIPC icon. Step 4 would then be for you to click the Register Now icon when you're now ready to register your business. And then the last step would be to start a new application and then follow the steps that subsequently follow. As you can see, there are 5 main steps: start, business details, related parties, terms and conditions, and then your payment. It's important to note that the cost of registering your business with CIPC, whether through FNB or directly on the CIPC website, is 175 Rand. That includes the registration of a business name if you want to. Otherwise, you can register the business as 125 Rand without a name. What will then happen is that CIPC will register your business and generate a default name, which is most often the registration number of the business, which is not really ideal. So what you probably want to go for is the 175 Rand that includes a business name. There's some other considerations when registering your business, and on this page I've listed 2. The first is tax clearance. So this is basically when you want SARS to issue a certificate that says that you are in good standing in terms of paying taxes. Usually after a new business is registered, it's advisable that you get tax clearance. Anybody that you transact with formally, like for tenders or when your business is entering into a contract with somebody, might want you to furbish them with a tax clearance certificate. So the way you'd go about doing it is either you get it on SARS e-filing or you get it at the SARS branch. What I'd advise is that you just call the SARS call center and you ask them to help you with obtaining the tax clearance certificate via e-filing, because that's the most convenient. It's in your home on your computer without you having to mission to a SARS branch. The other consideration is the BBBE certificate. Sometimes when you're entering into formal contracts or government contracts, they ask that you show them your BBBE certificate. Now, what's important to note is that businesses that have a turnover of less than 10 million rand actually don't need a BBBE certificate. All they need is a BBBE affidavit, which you can actually just get on the CIPC website. The link on the slide is what you would follow to get to the BBBE page on the CIPC website, and then you'll see that on that page it says click here to download the BBBE affidavit. All you then need to do is fill out this affidavit, sign it, and get it stamped by a Commissioner of Oaths. For example, just go to a police station and get it certified there. And that's what you furbish every time that somebody wants you to show them your BBBE certificate. And that's really it when it comes to business registration. As mentioned, this is not a comprehensive guide, but it does give you a sense of what are the key things you need to consider when you want to formalize and register your business. If you need further help when it comes to business registration, feel free to use the contact details on the slide and we'll be more than happy to help you. Thanks for listening.